G'day and welcome back for more Space Engineers Survival. A number of people have very sensibly been suggesting that I install the Smart Turrets mod, due to its ability to give me more control over what the turrets do, allowing them to not shoot at bits of debris under a certain block count, all sorts of really cool fine-tuning adjustments like that. Unfortunately, while it gives you more control, it does use a little bit more processing time to operate the turrets with this mod. And I already have quite a few turrets. I'm expecting to add a whole lot more. There's going to be more sandbags, there's going to be the rebuilt bunker, there's probably going to be some other bunkers, and that means the performance hits that I observed when I was testing the mod are only going to get worse. Now, this is not to say that the Smart Turrets mod is bad for performance. All of these sorts of mods have their own little impacts. I've got the scripts running to control the solar tower, my inventory, all of the little other bits and pieces around the base. I've got a huge base. I've got air tightness on. I've got a whole bunch of different things running that mean that I'm often on the edge of where I get nice, smooth, at least most of the time, performance. So I have to pick and choose what I'm going to add and what I'm going to allow to have impacts on the performance of the game. And I'm going to choose not to install the Smart Turrets mod because I want to do some other things that are likely to make its performance even more taxing. So that's one I'm not going to use. The next thing I want to talk about just before we get going on mining some magnesium is Izzy contacted me, unfortunately, just after I'd already uploaded the video and I couldn't change what I'd already said. He explained to me why, precisely, he can't make the hydrogen bottles get automatically refilled if I just chuck them in the container that they're supposed to get stored in. And this is because the programmable block API does not have access to the fill state of the hydrogen bottles, which is unfortunate, because that means you got to work out another way around it. But now that I know it can't be done, what this means is I'm just going to try and make all of my inventory access points cargo containers so that I can just dump them in. Whoops, didn't need to dump that. Whoops, what am I doing? Dump them in, go to my cargo container and just wait for the filled ones to turn up. It's actually pretty neat. It would be ideal if the API allowed people like Izzy to control where these go and make sure they're all filled all the time. But we work with what limitations we've got. So let's grab the butterball and head off and get some magnesium. Have we got any enemies particularly close? 6.3 Ks? No. I think we've got enough of a window now to safely go down and mine a full butterball load of magnesium. So let's get to it. As I mentioned before, I'm not taking the goose because I don't think I can protect it. And hopefully one load from the buttercup will be enough magnesium for quite some time to come. I think, although I'm not really 100% certain, that most of my magnesium I've worked from came from one load that I mined by hand and one load that I mined with the ugly duckling. And I need to activate the GPS marker for the magnesium mine. And this is another tip that I was pointed to when I was messing with all my GPS markers before, which is just double click them to turn them on and double click them to turn them off. Don't need the other ones on. I've already got enough junk on our HUD. Really do need to get that grinder pit done so that I can get all these extra markers off my HUD. Make it a little less cluttered. I'm also not going to be turning off the braking thrusters while heading down here in the dark. I would rather not accidentally crash. A little bit of energy wastage is far, far less expensive than crashing the butterball. We'll leave the detector on until I get sight of the magnesium. And conveniently, I see it now, so let's turn it off. Now, how close is that stinging adversary? 4.6 Ks. That's not too bad. Okay, 3.4 Ks away. Let's clear the trees. Let's head home. Nice big load of magnesium. Plenty of ammo to be made. During the days between the last episode and now, I have been thinking a lot about the bunker. And without me having cleared any of the debris that's around, I don't think rebuilding the bunker is my best idea. I think I need new sandbags. And I don't just mean the current sandbags moved around and placed them. I mean making a version 2. Making a better sandbag that can be more easily deployed, hopefully less vulnerable to clang, and a little bit easier to use in some respects. So the sort of things I want to add to the version 2 are I want to replace the beacon with an antenna, I want to add some landing gear, and that's not landing gear to lock onto the voxels. What my plan would be with landing gear on the sandbag would be to use it to lock onto small pieces of station that I embed in the voxels and then lock onto that, which should be a lot safer, as landing gear on voxels is high risk. Okay. Glad I left the doors open as I left, since that was the light that was guiding me home. Oh, we've made a few ammo containers already, and the turrets must have picked it all up, because none has gone into storage yet. Okay, good to know. We were already running quite low. Now, to build the next sandbag, or to design it I should say, I don't think there's enough room here to be able to work it all in. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move this projector and rotor, or actually I'll probably just build a new one, out here so I've got a bit more room. I think later we'll build a printer possibly in one of these side pits, since my working plans at the moment are new ground attack vehicle gets parked here, and grinding pit goes in here. So that would leave one of those bays available for a piston-based printer. Let's get a rotor on the wall. And I want a gap above the ground like the other one, since I'm going to be adding some bits to the bottom of the sandbag. Okay, found the projector, blueprints, sandbag, forward defense turret, okay. Projected. Let's rotate it the correct way. Probably reset these since I modified them all in order to put it in, and that's actually right, isn't it? Yes. Put in our bit to grind off later, and we've got our sandbag projected. I'm going to use the buttercup to weld this up, as I think it'll be much quicker than doing it by hand. Hand welding on these projections can be quite fiddly, so we won't do that. Let's lift, let's detach. Let's quickly hop out and remember that I haven't implemented the fix that someone gave me for this script. There is a fix that I can use, and I keep struggling to find it in my comments. If you're the one who sent me the adjustment to the vector thrust script, I would love to be sent it again so that I can implement it. I lost where it was, and I can't remember which video it was on, so I haven't been able to add it to the game yet, and I really would like to make that change. So let's load up the buttercup with a few bits and pieces that we're going to need for our sandbags. Buttercup's loaded up. Let's see how much quicker it is welding with this compared to doing this by hand. Yeah, it's going to be a lot quicker. placing the blocks is a lot simpler. One thing to note which can happen with large grid welders trying to place blocks is the problem that I ran into when I was trying to weld this little arm here. Because I didn't have any of the bulletproof glass in my inventory, the solar panel wasn't fully completed. And until it's fully completed, the game doesn't like to add new blocks, which does help you with welding up a full ship, because it means you won't keep dropping down new blocks even when the other ones aren't complete. But if you're not actually going to complete a block, it's a bit of a nightmare. So I've added that in, and now all of this will place down nicely. But it is an important thing to note, if you're having trouble getting a large grid welder to place down new blocks on a projection, make sure it's actually got the inventory it needs for some other blocks that are within range of the welder at the time, as that can prevent the placement of new blocks. Okay. We have a new sandbag. So, upgrades for the sandbags. As mentioned before, I want to get rid of the beacon and replace it with an antenna. I'm going to make the range on this antenna pretty small so we don't have too much of an impact from the increased power output or power requirement of it. It's been fairly easy to keep track of where I've put the sandbags so far, and if it starts becoming difficult because I've got lots of them, then it matters even less if I'm able to find them from a distance. So if I make the range nice and short, like if we go in here, grab our, that is not how you spell antenna, grab our antenna, let's actually rename this to sandbag, and we'll drop our broadcast radius down to, let's make it just 1,000 meters. That's only 4 kilowatts. That's really not much. I think that'll be fine. And now, we also need to change the color, because the color is just not right. When the graphics got updated, this was one of the colors that got messed up. Let's make it a bit more olive green now. It's still dark. Let's try this. Control Shift middle mouse, and yeah, that's okay. Let's try making it a little less bright. Yeah, nice and military looking. One of the problems that seemed to be inciting Clang with the sandbags was the perfectly flat base. This means there's more points that interact with the voxels and more likelihood that some of those points will end up drifting through, and then that is rectified by explosion. So what I'm going to do is on each of these decoy outriggers, I'm going to add a little bit of a foot to them so that the whole thing is lifted up onto it. Like this. So I could use any sort of armor block here. I could use blast doors, I could use heavy armor, I could use light armor. From all of my drop testing ages ago, the light armor does tend to have a survivability benefit when being dropped, because per block it is that much lighter. It reduces the force of the impact that's suffered. So it should work better in this scenario, where I'm also concerned about the maximum weight that I'm going to be carrying around, as at least for the time being, we are still stuck with the ugly duckling doing all of the transport maneuvers for these sandbags. It may be something I can upgrade them with later with heavier armor when I have a better lifting vehicle. Although that's a very horrible thing to say about the ugly duckling. A bigger lifting vehicle, not a better one, just bigger. Okay, so those little feet should hopefully decrease our interactions with the voxels and make this whole thing rest a lot nicer. And it also means that there's some armor points that'll hit the ground, as I want to add the ability to drop these from the air. So we're going to add a pair of parachutes. For parachutes on something like this, it's where it's really, really flat. It's a very flat vehicle or device. it's really important to be mindful of the height at which you place the parachutes. If I put these parachutes right here in the middle, there's a very real chance that the whole thing will flip over and land turret down, which is not ideal. So we want this at the high point here, and conveniently the turret provides us with some cargo access points that we can use to get the canvases into these. So we'll place our parachutes on either side like this, and this will give us enough protection as we drop these so that they'll land softly. And then I am going to add a pair of landing gear to the bottom of these parachutes. So one there and one here. These landing gear are not intended to lock to voxels. They're intended to lock to blocks that I will place into the voxels and then allow these to lock. So what we want is these actually to be set with auto lock off as our default state, because I only want to lock them when I've got them in the right position attached to a block, not a voxel. Plus, if I accidentally did mess that up and left them auto-locked, they shouldn't really have much chance of locking because of these little lifting feet on each of the decoy spots. So that's kind of what I was thinking for version 2. They're fairly simple upgrades, but I think they'll make these much easier to handle. I'll be able to drop them from a height, so I won't need to take the ugly duckling right down to the ground, which should make their deployment a bit quicker. And with the antenna on board, I'll be able to log into each sandbag and check it to see where its ammo situation's at and where its power situation's at. So if we look in, we can just go to our battery on board and see what state it's in. Since we're now using parachutes, we should probably make a bunch of canvas. One thing I'm going to have to be very careful about with these sandbags is redeployment. So sure, I will almost certainly remember to put the canvases in these parachutes before the first deployment, but on the second one, I reckon there's a pretty good chance that I'll forget. So I'm going to hopefully remember that redeployment means I have to place them close to the ground. I can't take advantage of the parachutes. It's only parachute drops on the first deployment. So the step we need to do now is detach this from the wall. And there we go. Nice. Now we can make a new blueprint of it. Let's just check that everything in here is named nicely. I think it is. I think it'll be fine. Don't really need to do much more than... It doesn't really need to be cleverly named or anything. So we'll grab some ammo and some canvas to put in it, so that when we create the blueprint, if someone pastes this when I share it on the workshop, it'll already be armed and loaded with the parachute canvases and with the ammunition, which is exactly what we want. There we go. And I'm going to upload this to the workshop soon. Even though it's a very basic design, I've had a few people ask me for it, and I'm going to do it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show some of the little things you can do to make your workshop items look a bit nicer, and some little tips that I've picked up along the way. If you've got your own tips about what people can do with their workshop items to make them look a bit better, let me know so I can add them to that video, as I will be making that probably in the next week or two. And now we can create our blueprint. Let's go a bit above so that I can see clearly what it is. Control B. Oh no, forgot to do one thing before we create our blueprint. Let's name it. And we'll name it the Sandbag version 2. Remote defense turret. Okay. Now we can create our blueprint. And there we go. Control B, and it should show up. Sandbag version 2, remote defense turret. Awesome. So now we're ready to print a bunch of new sandbags. And let's go deploy this one first. It's starting to get light, and we don't seem to have any enemies coming in right now. So let's grab control of the ugly duckling and grab hold. Now, with the parachutes, some of you are probably screaming, no, don't drop it! Don't drop it straight away! You haven't set up the parachutes properly. I know. I didn't want to activate the parachutes or set up the parachutes properly just yet, since I kind of need to set it up just before I drop it, as I want them to auto-deploy. So, where shall we drop this? Maybe I should wait until it's a little bit lighter, but we can drop the next one as well. I want to get this nice and high up. Get us nice and high up, I should say. I want to drop it somewhere over on this little elevated plateau where all these markers for the enemies are. I think that blue down there on the right is the bunker. So let's go a fair bit forward of that. I cannot see the train at all. 300 meters above the ground. That's plenty of deployment time. Oh, we must be going above that bit because we just lost 40 meters of altitude going forward. Okay, I think we're over the level-ish bit of ground now. So what we're going to do is we're going to press Shift K. We are going to access the terminal of the sandbag. Going to grab our parachute hatches, set them to auto-deploy. And now I should just be able to drop it. Let's see how this works out. 3, 2, 1. Here goes nothing. Hello. Oh no, one of the landing gears locked and the other one isn't. That's what's going on, isn't it? Both are ready to lock. There we go. It would appear that the grids don't update unless you actually start moving away from them. Oh, that looks cool. Spectator cam, where are you? Let's get some light on this so we can see. Oh, this is awesome. Look at that. I might be accidentally destroying some of my loot, but that's possibly not a bad thing. Yes, that worked perfectly. It's exactly what I wanted. Get a decent number around where we're likely to get attacked from at the bunker, and that'll give me enough space to then go up and, well, enough safety space to go up and rebuild the bunker. Though it does make me wonder whether the bunker's even necessary if I can deploy these out properly. It's going to be pretty awesome if I can manage to get an automated factory producing these things. That will help me so much. Being able to just pump them out. Then I'll really end up with a ton of turrets defending me. So that little thing I experienced just before where the sandbag didn't drop until I moved the grid I was on is an interesting thing. Someone had mentioned to me that that was the case, but I'd never experienced it before. What it might mean, though, is that I can very easily have Rudolph launched from Chicken Hawks, with the Chicken Hawk actually having the landing gear, which is really awesome. Because that'll mean I'll be able to have no landing gear on the missile at all, which is a much, much better way of doing things. Again, let's grab our sandbag terminal, parachute hatch. I wonder if I just try open this time. Oh, auto deploy is on. Oh, wait. Wait. I'm in the wrong thing. I need small grid, because that's what this one is. Parachute hatch. If I hit open, I think it might work. Let's try. Open. Oh yeah, I need to disconnect it then. Ah. That's so annoying. And that's why we use auto deploy. I think it still survived though. Despite the height of the drop. Oh yeah. I lost 2 of the decoys. But otherwise that thing's still going to work. Yeah. We'll absolutely use auto deploy. We'll not use just open, because open doesn't work. It's more like the canvas gets cut and then you're back exactly where you were, so you waste an entire canvas. Or in this case, you waste an entire canvas and destroy 2 of your decoys. But we'll just leave that sandbag there. It'll still do something. Actually, maybe I'll... Oh no, I think I will leave it on that cliff. It will forever be a reminder. What I should do is quickly grab one of these in their terminal and check their battery life. Okay, their battery life is going to be very good because the solar panels work nicely. Now, if I want to protect this spot so that I can build more... Oh, jeez. Look at the state of it. Ugh. If I want to protect this, so I'll protect myself while I build at this site. I've got those 2 forward of me. I think I want another one where that tree is right there. If I'm using my drill to point that tree. I think I want another one there and maybe another one over on that top there. Once I've got that, I think I'll feel relatively safe. At least from attacks from that base. I'm not getting attacked from the base that was sending the big... Yes! I think we're in between waves from the distant base. I think we finally stopped getting attacked from both sides. I don't know when the next attack is going to come, but that gives us a nice bit of breathing room. We can really get on top of a few things if that's the case. I think, instead of focusing on that bunker, since I'm not really sure that it's working, and now that we've got a couple of extra sandbags up the top, and we've got a setup so that we can build more sandbags, I think we might build a few more sandbags right now, and then we're going to build the grinding pit. That's got to be next on the list, doesn't it? That has absolutely got to be next on the list. Because if we can clear out all that debris, then our defenses are going to work even better, and then we can be comfortable and ready to attack the enemy. Oh, yes. This is good. This is very good. The issue that I had with using the parachutes on the sandbag by just opening them is that when they are open, they need to stay moving for them to stay open. The moment they're completely still, the game actually cuts the canvas, and that means the parachute stops working. And that's exactly what happened. I was still, so when I opened it, even though I tried to drop the sandbag straight away, it wasn't quick enough, and the parachutes got destroyed, which meant that it fell and I lost those decoys. But I won't be doing that with the next ones. In fact, since I don't need to drop them in the situation I'm in where I'm placing them at the moment, I'll probably just actually place them straight on the ground. The reason I wanted to be able to drop them, and that's a very unpleasant effect, the reason I wanted to be able to drop them is more for being able to place them very near the enemy bases, so that they can be a forward line of defense, which is what they were initially intended to be. And if I can drop them, I could even drop them almost into harm's way. Though I think we need a different design if we're going to do that. A design where the turret can actually shoot downwards. So maybe something more like my, and I use inverted air commas here, anti-wolf drone that I did for the autopilot tutorial. That sort of thing could work nicely, where the 2 turrets are side on, which allows them to have a pretty decent arc up and down, as well as forward and back. That sort of setup could work for being able to drop onto an enemy base, as they'd be able to shoot down as they fall. And if I drop them quickly enough, they'd probably get into firing range before they actually got shot up too badly. Especially if I just make their parachutes deploy at, say, 300 meters above the surface. Then they'll get into range, hopefully get off a few shots. They'd probably die against anything too... They'd probably get destroyed quite easily against something like the enemy bases, but it might be something to try in the future. It is unfortunate that I'm shooting up wreckage, but I don't think there's much I can do about that. There is another big advantage, I think, of placing all these sandbags around the base. It's putting a lot of decoys around the base. Each sandbag having 4 decoys. That's a lot of extra targets that aren't the solar panels, which is hopefully going to be very handy. And I'm thinking about this one. I don't think I like where I've put it. I suspect, since I'm not using the smart turrets mod, which would be able to prevent this, there is a very real chance that this could shoot up through the solar panels. So I'm going to move it. I think we go up here. Still very nearby, but should prevent it doing too much damage to my own base. Now that I've got a relatively efficient way of making new sandbags, I think we can probably deploy them around a lot of this valley. Protecting all our mine sites, protecting our base properly, giving us a much greater degree of comfort from attack from these enemies. I don't know if this is really going to be in range of things, but it seemed like a good idea, so let's do it. It's in range of debris, that's something, I guess. Alrighty, I think this is the last sandbag we'll make today. Then, what I'm going to do is I am going to start drilling out that bay just to our right now, so that we can build our grinding pit and start cutting down on all these millions of wrecked grids that are out there. And hopefully make all of these new sandbags a lot more efficient. Now, where do I want to place this one? I think I might place it directly on top of the base. Place it up here with the other one that's up here. Oh, let me just check with spectator cam. I have got this lined up right. Yes, that looks like a bay. And here's why I haven't done much drilling into the side walls. You can see there's not going to be much rock between these. I do like the idea of having the rock wall remaining, but it is going to be very, very skinny. So I'm going to have to be quite careful that I don't end up drilling too far to my right or left as I drill this out, so that I don't end up popping through. I may at some later stage add like a... what's the term I'm looking for? A little tunnel to go between each one. Just a man-sized one. So like a single door and just a little passageway. As it may be handy to be able to have some alternative access through, rather than having to walk through the main bit of the hangar. But until I've got a very, very firm idea on how to do that, I don't think it's a good idea to do it, since if I drill anything out, I cannot replace it. I am so excited for putting this thing together. There is an enormous amount of material out there in those wrecks that I would love to get my hands on. It'll save me a huge amount of power because I won't have to manufacture those components or refine the minerals to make those components. So there are some big benefits in setting this thing up now. Plus, you know, the performance benefits of cutting down the number of grids out there by a big margin. Alright, that's fairly well lit from the tick, which is handy. Gives us a bit of an easier place to work in until we have everything welded up. And that means we'll be ready for next time. Now, I asked you guys a little while ago whether you thought I should upgrade or improve Igor. Most people thought he shouldn't lose his current look, which is that of something that's ugly, and I agree. What I am going to do though is I'm going to add a battery up here in the right color. I am going to place some little bits of armor above these pistons. Something like that I think will look nice. Let's get rid of that one because I don't like that shape. I want to use that shape. And I'm going to weld up the pieces of armor that are attached to the bottom of the pistons as well. More for looking complete than for trying to look pretty. Alright, we got our power cells on board. So now we can upgrade it with Izzy's recharge script. So with all that on board, he's now a little more balanced. I'm tempted to give him a temporary snout. And my thoughts on that were doing something a little like this. Now let's get rid of that. Grab our conveyor tubes. And I do mean something that's going to look like a snout. The idea of this would be if we go with a curved conveyor tube there. Straight. Straight. And then a curve on here. Then we need a couple of junctions. 1, 2, 3. And as I said, temporary. This isn't going to stay because I don't know if it's going to work. I suppose if it works, it might stay. But to add to Igor's welding prowess, if we have some welders across the front here, we should be able to lay down blocks in front of us while we drive around. It is going to make him very, very front heavy, though. But it is also going to make him look ridiculous, which is kind of on point for his design so far. Let's put some lights on the front of these welders so we'll be able to see. But this was sort of what I was thinking of doing to Igor. Definitely not making him pretty. Definitely not making him better, but he might now be able to weld up a lot of the floor without me having to place the blocks by hand, which would be kind of handy. Useful. I'm interested to see just how much he's going to tip over. What I'm going to do, though, is attempt to counterbalance him a bit. If we grab some... Wait, can I even make the parts I need for this? Mass. What does it need? Small ship. Ooh, gravity generator components and superconductor conduits. I don't know that I can make those. I think these still work without them, though, from what I've been told. I suppose I should see whether he's actually going to need them first. But I could place some artificial mass blocks here along the back to kind of counterbalance the front, which I probably should do. I'm going to place a few. He's going to be very heavy now. This could cause a problem for the suspension as I drop off the connector. And also, I'm going to do something horrible to him. He's going to have a gyroscope there and a gyroscope there. They are very, very deliberately placed off center and off balance. Because he has to stay ugly. Let's see how we go. What we're going to do is we are going to strengthen our suspension before we drop. And then we're going to drop. Ooh. Ooh. This is kind of working. In the most ridiculous of ways. But Igor should be able to... Oh, This could be kind of cool if it works. Let's give this floor a go. Let's see how Igor's upgrades fare. Now let's turn them all on. They're all on. Let's drop our suspension a bit. Oops, pressing the wrong button. Wondering why what wasn't happening. Okay, let's see how this goes. Going to have to be very careful. Gonna have to line up so I'm just on 2. I could get rid of the middle welder actually. It's not really necessary, and that would allow me to technically be able to see from first person. I might do that. Alright, let's drive on these ones that are made. And as soon as they place the blocks, we can actually drive onto them because the rear welders can complete the work. Oh, this is nice. This works really well. I am so proud of you, Igor. You and your giant snout. Igor is definitely now an example of function over form. It's making me very nervous doing this, trying to move a little bit quicker and seeing how fast I can go. Because I can't easily see when the blocks have been placed. But man, that is so quick. Oh, I should have done this ages ago. So many people suggested it to me, and I really, really, really should have done it. I just always thought he'd just tip over straight away if I did it. It was when I was told that mass blocks work even when they're not fully constructed that it made me realize that I could get away with this much more easily. And this is why I love playing without things like build and repair, because I would never have built Igor. I would never have this monstrosity of a thing that actually works quite well. I just never would have reached that point. If I had one of those build and repair systems, I'd just be using that instead. And the new improved Igor has finished all of that floor. And that actually didn't take me very long at all. So next time I'm going to go and build my actual design for the grinder pit. That's going to be the first up thing. And I do feel a little bad that I promised a new bunker and didn't deliver this time around. But I think it was probably the best thing, since the bunker didn't really work out as well as I'd hoped, and the sandbags worked out better than I'd expected. So getting new sandbags was, I think, the right decision. And I forgot to put the programmable block on Igor. I think I might pop it. Might pop it on the front of him here. Yeah. It's as good a spot as any. And we will edit. We will browse workshop. We will type Izzy. We will wait for it to load. And then we'll type Izzy again. And we will get ship refueler. Okay. And now I will not have the problem of Igor running out of power. This will be Igor's PB recharge script. Cool. Well, I hope you guys that didn't want me to upgrade Igor because you thought he was ugly as is can see that the upgrade is actually worse. He's even uglier, but he works brilliantly. I'm super excited to use him to build the rest of the Goose's parking spot. This is going to be awesome. So next time I'm going to go straight into the grinder pit, which is probably going to involve a little bit of grinding out of this floor that I just placed. But it is easier for me to design things once I know the actual floor layout, and rather than fiddling too much, I thought I'd just place it all out. I'm thinking at the moment of designing something that looks, I'm hoping I'll be able to, designed something that looks a little bit like a dumpster. So having a closable lid on top, so I can dump the stuff into it, close the lid, use cameras to see inside so we can make sure that everything's ground down, then open the lid and get ready for the next bit of rubbish. And all of that is going to have to be set up with timers so that we can use the remote commands in the collector ship, for want of a better term, the vehicle that's going to actually pick up the chunks of wreckage, and remotely control the dumpster. So I can drop stuff in, close the lid remotely, turn on the grinders, and do all of that without having to actually get out of the collector ship, which would be really kind of handy. So there's that, and this time I promise it will actually be that, and plenty more to come. So I'll see you then.